Pfizer trial patient, 1133, is journalist Molly Jong-Fast. In a New York Times op-ed, she explained why she, usually an anxious mess over her health, chose to be experimented on. Quote, I lived through New York City in March and April. I saw the field hospital in Central Park. I watched in horror as refrigerator trucks were enlisted to handle morgue overflow. I remember the weeks of silent streets punctured only by the sirens of an ambulance rushing someone to Mount Sinai Hospital. At some point, I began to feel as if I was simply waiting my turn to get sick. I got kind of stuck in those horrible months, thinking about the deaths of people I never knew, like the 36-year-old school principal or the theater producer or the Harlem veterinarian, haunted by their abbreviated lives. As soon as I heard there were coronavirus vaccine trials, I fought for a chance to be in them. And she succeeded. Molly Jong-Fast joins me now, along with Dr. Peter Hotez, who is the founding dean of Baylor College's National School of Tropical Medicine. Welcome. And Molly, I'm pairing you with Dr. Hotez so that he can help explain some of the science behind it and explain why, for instance, we can't be sure that the immunity lasts for very long. So first off, I want to hear about your experience. You wrote about how you're not the kind of person that would normally do something like this. But you explained that New York was a really scary and depressing place, and that's putting it mildly, in the months of March, April, and May. What was it like to be in that room and getting the injection? You didn't know if it was a placebo or the actual vaccine.
Yeah, it was sort of exciting, though, as someone who believes in science. And after the last 4 years, there's been a lot of kind of anti-science rhetoric. So it was exciting to be able to do something that was tangible and to get a little agency back. Also, I had never participated in a medical trial, and I'm really not the type who probably should. But the study doctors were amazing, and they made me feel really comfortable.
What did they tell you about what you were likely to experience?
So, and I think Dr. Hotez can talk about this too, that this drug is an mRNA vaccine, so it's very new, and there's never been one that's been approved. But it is extremely, so far, anecdotally, very well tolerated. So I hadn't actually known a few other people in the study, because this is one of the largest studies ever, which is really interesting. And so I knew that most people I knew had been fine. The thing that they had said was that there might be like swelling or pain around the injection site. And I've heard that some participants do have fevers.
Did you experience any side effects yourself?
No. I mean, the second shot, well, the thing is, people have as many side effects from the placebo as they do from the regular drug, which is kind of interesting. So it's hard to know what's psychological and what's not. For me, after the second shot, I felt a little bit tired. But if you look at the statistics, that's the same for the placebo and for the real shot. So I honestly don't know.
Dr. Hotez, what do you make of that?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important that Molly and you, Katie, talk about this on TV. It's really important to demystify the whole clinical trials process. This is because we depend on this, right? We're looking at 30,000 human volunteers for each vaccine. We're looking at maybe 8 Operation Warp Speed vaccines in the U.S. and maybe a dozen globally. So the numbers of people we need to have in these trials really mounts up. So I think it's great that you're demystifying it. I'm sorry, I didn't remember the specific question that you had, Katie.
So when you do a vaccine trial and you have a certain number of the patients getting the vaccine, you have a certain number of other patients getting the placebo. Molly was saying that when she got her second injection, she experienced a lot of fatigue. And apparently the Pfizer trial officials have said that the people who got the placebo and the people who got the actual vaccine experienced that same symptom.
Yeah, it happens. And this is why we have placebos, because otherwise you could attribute everything to the vaccine, and it helps you filter out what's likely due to the vaccine and what's not likely due to the vaccine. We do know the Pfizer vaccine and some of the other mRNA vaccine does cause fever and can cause headache and malaise, but it tends to be short term. And clearly the benefits of having virus neutralizing antibody, which is what these vaccines do, far outweigh the risk. The question I often get asked is, hey, Dr. Hotez, which vaccine are you waiting for? And I say it's sort of the wrong question, because we're, as you know, we're entering a horrible, horrible winter as the numbers are really skyrocketing. And I feel very uncomfortable going through this winter without having those virus neutralizing antibodies in my system, which is what I would get with any of the vaccines in Operation Warp Speed. So essentially what I'm saying in the beginning, we may not have much of a choice of which vaccine becomes available, whether it's the Pfizer one or Moderna. And so get what you can, even if it turns out not to be the best vaccine, then you can get boosted later.
So let me ask you this. There are people out there who are concerned about how fast this has gone. Usually for past vaccines, it has taken years. I heard, though, in discussing this vaccine, the basic components of it were already there. I heard it likened to a prefab house where you're basically just going in and changing the fixtures to make it more customized for this particular virus. Do you have any concerns about the speed?
Well, not so much. And the reason I'm not so concerned is because, first of all, it's a terrible name. They should never have called it Operation Warp Speed, because it gave the impression that things are being rushed or not adequately tested for safety. The Warp Speed part is not the trials. These are really solid 30,000, 44,000 in the case of Pfizer person trials. So well-powered studies. The Warp Speed part is more on the manufacturing side, building these vaccines at scale so we can release them to the public as soon as we determine that they're safe and effective. So I think that's a really important message. These are new technology vaccines. We've never licensed an mRNA vaccine before, which is both the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine. And that's why Operation Warp Speed has diversified it. We have a whole array of different technologies. For instance, we're producing now a vaccine which is made by a more traditional recombinant protein technology, the same used for the hepatitis B vaccine, but the Warp Speed part is not around rushing the trials.
Got it. Dr. Peter Hotez, thanks for joining us today. And Molly Jong-Fast, thanks for being a guinea pig for all of us. We appreciate it. And thanks for putting it out there that you think people should trust in the science. That is so important right now, especially.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.